We begin with breaking news out of Ukraine in one of the deadliest attacks since Russia invaded Ukraine last spring. At least 51 people have been killed in a strike on the Hroza village in the northeast near Kharkiv. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says Russian forces shelled a shop and a cafe in the village. The strike comes as Zelenskyy is in Spain for a European security summit. OK, well, let's bring in our correspondent Zain Basravi, who joins us from Zaporizhzhia in Ukraine. And I know it's early, just an hour or so since the attack. Can you just tell us what more we know at this stage?
Well, this attack happened at around 1 o'clock local time. It's been about 5-6 hours since this attack happened, and debris is still being cleared from the site of this attack. Now, it is about 5 or 6 hours drive north of our position in the Kharkiv region in Kupiansk district in a village called Hroza. And what we know is that a cafe and shop in the middle of the day, a daylight attack, was hit when people had gathered there. We are learning in the last hour or so that the death toll has climbed. People who were wounded, receiving emergency medical aid at the site of this attack, have died in the last few hours. That death toll is now at 51 killed. We know for certain that at least one child, a young 6-year-old boy, was among the dead as well. What we also are hearing, this, again, one of the worst attacks in recent memory. We haven't seen anything this big in a few months. It was an Iskander, a Russian guided missile. This is a missile that can be aimed. These are meant to be very precise missiles. They can carry up to a 700-kilogram warhead, so a very, very large missile used on seemingly indiscriminately a civilian target. From what we understand of that village, there were no military assets nearby. So why this attack happened, it still is unclear if the Russians knew it was a civilian target or not. But what people here keep telling us is that in their experience, this could be a village anywhere along the front line, anywhere in the east of the country, going from the north to the south. This kind of thing continues to happen in civilian areas. We've seen many towns here in Zaporizhzhia as well where people say the same thing. They feel that they are in civilian spaces, and this kind of indiscriminate targeting is continuing to happen. It has been happening since the war began.
And Zain, what's been the reaction from Kyiv?
Well, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who is in Spain at the moment for that EU Council summit, he did come out very strongly, calling this an act of terrorism, saying that this kind of evil needed to be stopped, and anyone supporting Russia was supporting, in his words, evil terrorism being carried out in his country. A senior member of his office, the deputy head of the president's office, Oleksiy Kuleba, came out saying, offering on social media condolences for the dead, offering his well wishes, but also saying it was now time to take revenge for everyone that's been killed in this war. So very, very strong statements coming out from the leadership in Kyiv, and it will be certainly something that they point to when they go to their allies and say what they need now are better air defense system, more modern weaponry, to be able to take back the skies over their country and bring this war to a quicker end.
OK, thank you so much for that update. That is Zain Basravi for us in Zaporizhzhia. Maria Avdiva is the research director at the European Expert Association in Ukraine. She joins us live from Kyiv. Thank you very much for being on this news hour. As we heard from Zain, our correspondent just there doesn't seem to appear to be any military infrastructure in the area where this strike happened. I mean, what do you think it was targeted for?
Well, this is a very tiny village where about 300 people were living, and 51 of those locals were killed just in one place. They were gathering in a local coffee shop, grocery store, like community center in the center of that village, and they were gathering there for funeral. So Russia hit exactly at the time when like every 6th person from the village was in that one place. Now, what is the reason is still unknown. Police and local security services are running investigation right now, and they're also asking locals because there is assumption that probably someone gave out the information or navigated the strike because it was so precise and hit precisely this spot where all these people were. But from what we see is that Russia is all the time attacking in the direction direction of Kupiansk in Kharkiv region. This is one of the many attacks that happened recently. And just about 2 weeks ago, Russia attacked the bridge in Kupiansk where when the evacuation convoy was crossing the river, and 6 people who were being evacuated were killed at that time.
It sounds like this could have been an Iskander missile, which is really precise. It can be guided into a target. Do you think that this was a deliberate attack on civilians?
Yes, absolutely. So this was clearly a deliberate attack. Russians knew that all those people were there, and they precisely attacked this building. The strike was so huge that from what we know now, only 30 bodies are being able to be identified from 51 people killed. So means that 20 bodies are being still unidentified, and the DNA test will continue on the scene of the attack. And from what we know from last Russians attacks of the same kind, which were on a pizzeria in Kramatorsk and others, then later police said that they found people who navigated the strikes, those who gave out information and told Russians when and where to hit.
I mean, this comes as Zelenskyy is in Spain trying to convince European leaders to continue their support for Ukraine. Do you think that this attack, with so many civilians dead here, will actually help him to be able to do that?
Well, the hope here is that the Western countries will continue support for Ukraine, because Russia is clearly using this time not to stop the time what it has, but to continue its attacks, and they are becoming more and more cruel. So that's why Ukraine is asking for this help, and this help has to be continued. Otherwise, the number of people killed by Russia will only rise. Imagine if Ukraine had enough capabilities and enough weapons to push Russians further from Kupiansk, then Russia won't be able to hit this particular village with Iskander missile. So these are all things that are very connected. The more weapons Ukraine will get, the more Ukrainian troops will be able to push Russians out of the territory of Ukraine.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it here on Al Jazeera. That is Maria Avdiva, the Research Director at the European Expert Association in Ukraine. Thanks so much.